Hi, my name is Daniel. I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan. I have been following the band for 40 years since they started in 1980, and I want to make this video to kind of explain a little bit the history of the band, and to go over the many items, the many different versions that they had come up, of each album over the years, and to kind of provide a guide to collectors about which versions to buy, what are the different versions offer to fans, and kind of review that a little bit. So the first album, Iron Maiden, it's extremely interesting. Of course, it's very unusual for the time. One thing that has been true about Maiden from the beginning until now is that they never resorted to commercial type of gimmicks. Okay, if we think about other bands like Def Leppard and even Judas Priest, they did try to provide and create more commercial songs, right? Especially Def Leppard, and they're very much of the same time and of the same kind of background as Maiden, But they deliberately, from the very beginning, they wanted to create something extremely commercial. Okay, Judas Priest, they did work a lot in releasing specific singles for the radio, and they had ongoing and very good agreements with many radio stations, both in the UK and in the United States, and so they resorted a lot to commercial support, but Maiden had never really done that, not from the beginning, and I think it continues to be like that even today. I mean, they never watered down, any of the things that they have produced. Okay, whatever they composed, in any which way they thought it would be, the sound that they wanted to create, that was exactly what they recorded. That was exactly how they played live, and they never tried to create radio hits. I don't know, maybe Run to the Hills in '82, maybe one of the first commercial radio hits that they had, but that wasn't that wasn't exactly the intent that they had. It was simply to promote the album. But I'm getting ahead. The first album, okay, you could see the many skills and the many things that the band had to offer. You could tell that they were true musicians. That this was an ensemble of people that were, that knew what they wanted. They had a very clear and specific sound, which again hasn't really changed in 40 years. Okay, where Steve Harris, the bass, that is the most predominant and aggressive and interesting element of every song. Okay, and of course he's the chief writer and composer of the band and has been so for most of the career of the band. Okay, and I when I was about 10 years old, that's when I first heard Maiden back in 1980. My daughter is now 12 years old and she's helping me do this video. And I mean, like I said, I just don't remember a moment in my life in which I didn't hear Maiden. It's such an essential and central part of my life. And that first album had a huge impact. For me, it was a very interesting, incredible moment that I will always remember. That the first second that I heard this band, I knew it was something special, something unique. I had, because of some family members and so on, I had been listening to things like AC/DC, which I still love, and Kiss and things like that. But Maiden was something totally different, totally new totally fresh and totally unique, and continues to be that. Okay, regardless of whatever many critics may say about the band, they are still that. Okay, AC/DC, which is a great and amazing and fantastic band, and again, one of my favorite bands. Most of whatever AC/DC has ever produced is riffs, okay, which is great, okay, and it's fantastic. But Maiden has this unique quality of combining the sound of the drums and the two guitars and the bass with the voice, and it's an ongoing wave of sounds that come in and out, and rhythms and harmonies that constantly change, and that galloping bass sound, which we see from the first album. Okay, Phantom of the Opera and Running Free are perfect examples of that specific Iron Maiden sound, which, if you know about the band, if you know the history of the band, it takes a lot from, UFO and other sounds like that of the 70s. Okay, UFO had a very specific sound, and of course Steve Harris was a huge he was a huge fan of UFO and copied to some extent their sound, but he expanded, from that basic structure that they had. He expanded to a more varied and interesting series of songs that are very unique to me, But anyways, the first album, the original version, which I don't have anymore, I regret this, back in the day, I sold them. I sold my the first CDs that I had. I mostly sold them when they came out with Newcastle. Okay, the Newcastle record, okay, it's a very interesting and important moment in the history of the band. Okay, for many reasons. Okay, they remastered for the first time their sound. Okay, the original recording on CD, it was very subdued. Okay, it sounded kind of like not a very rich and proper recording. Okay, but this is the first remaster that they made in the 1990s. Most of you probably do remember this. Okay, and what is interesting is that, for example, the artwork, okay, is nicer and brighter and more crisp and clear, much like the original vinyl. Okay, the original CDs that they had, the colors were not quite as bright, and the quality of the print was not that great. Okay, back in the day, in the 1980s, in the 90s, most bands, they didn't really put a lot of effort into producing anything. Okay, very rarely would you have anything else other than just a picture, a fold out like this, and that was it. Very rarely would you get like lyrics and stuff. Okay, but nevertheless, this is a great reissue of the entire collection. They came out with the entire collection back then. So one of the key features, it is that they renewed the sound of the album. But the other key and important feature of it is that these were double. Okay, and the second CD in it contained all of the additional extra songs of the singles and maxi singles that the band had recorded. So this is great. This is a great little thing. This is the first time that we got a chance to have remastered complete recordings and also the singles. Of course, they came out with the singles, just the CD, okay, just one CD of the singles at the end of the 80s with the seven song, the first 10 years collection, okay. Now, yeah, those were like simply one CD, right? And it wasn't all that great. Okay, it was a great, nice, neat edition that they came out with, but again, the sound was not that good, was not that clear. But with this collection, he had a much better recording, okay, which was more fair to the sound of the band, okay. From the same era, okay, there's a very interesting album that if you could get on vinyl, this is extremely valuable, okay. This is Metal for Mothers, okay, which is a compilation of like different bands of the late 70s, early 80s, of the new wave of British heavy metal, okay, and this is like the first official recording of Iron Maiden of Sanctuary, okay. This came out slightly before the official release of the first album, okay. So this is a great piece of history of the band.